All right, so my man Devin has this video on Social Security at 62 versus 70, and he came up with an idea that, with a certain case, that if you had Social Security at 62, not only would you have $500,000 more dollars at death, you'd actually pay less taxes, and he gave an example of that. So I said I want to run my own numbers. And I'm going to model what he used. His model, we got hubby and wife at 62. They'd like to have $7,000 per month net income. They got $750,000 in IRA, $400,000 in a joint account. He says client, but we'll call him hubby has Social Security benefit at his full retirement age of $3,000. Wifey has Social Security benefit $1,200. All right, so again, they're 62 years old. They got Social Security at 62. So they're 62 years old now. Their Social Security when they're their full retirement age for hubby is $3,000. All right, now you'll see that's filing age. We'll change that here in a second. For Doris, the wifey, is $1,200. All right, good. They got a portfolio of $750,000 for hubby, and we're going to just put that. We just simply put that into a growth portfolio, 70-30. And they got a taxable account of $400,000. Now, Devin didn't say what the cost basis was, so I'm just assuming $250, and we got that in Fidelity Balanced account. All right, so now we're looking at what that portfolio would look like. 70-30, growth-oriented portfolio. 5.4% is your mean average rate of return expectations. Devin has 7.4%. He didn't say what a standard deviation was. I'll show you what I think it is. I'm not very sure if he uses standard deviation, but anyway, be that as it may. On any given year, you could be up about 43% or so, or down about 28 to 30% with this model right here. 5.4% with an 11.5% standard deviation. All right, now he got his stuff from using the JP Morgan Capital Markets assumption, and here they're using. This is so freaking stupid. Not Devin, just the investment world. This is why we need a wealth tax. These guys got too much money, man. So in 2022, for the next 10 to 15 years, they said U.S. large cap stocks will give us 4.1% on average. After 1 year where the markets are down at just a run-of-the-mill bear market, 20%, now they say it's going to be double that. The average rate of return for the next 10 to 15 years will be double what it was last year simply because we had a bear market. That's a run-of-the-mill bear market, no big deal. I just find that so absurd, dude. It's nuts. I mean, you throw some bonds in here. Let's look at the. All right, so they're still calling for they raised their inflation rates from 2.4 to 2.6 for the next 10 to 12, 15 years. They're still saying bonds, 10-year bond will give us about 4. Long bonds gives 4.2. Investment grade corporate about 5.5. High yield, okay. Anyway, so that's where Devin's getting 7.4, 7.9% on stocks. Basically 4% on bonds. You take a certain, I guess, a 60-40 portfolio, something like that. But I found it was interesting. Check this out. I have a standard deviation now. Let me make this a little bit bigger and hopefully finish it. No bark in there. Of long-term, the long bond is actually the standard deviation went up from 11% to 12%. Even though we just had the worst bond market in history. The standard deviation has now gone up. I'm like, what is happening, JP Morgan? I said, what? It's like, come on, man. So we have a 12% standard deviation in long bonds now. 3% in intermediate. What? And these are all up from where they were a year ago after the worst market in bonds we've ever had. Then we go to large cap stocks. The standard deviation is up as well. So the standard deviation of bonds is actually spitting distance of the standard deviation of stocks. What? We just had the worst market in bonds ever. Standard deviations have gone up? Okay, let me change rooms here. Hold on a second. Get it, but again, I'm just a caveman financial planner. All right, so we got a 12% standard deviation. That means that 36% would be within 3 standard deviations, 99.8%. All right, of the time, you should get between, so if we take our models here, or a simple bell curve, I think that a 4% assumed rate of return, we should, let me just draw that a little bit better. We should get 40% on the up or 32% on the down. So they would expect your bonds on this long bonds now to give you negative 32% on any given year within 99.8% of the time. Or 40% on the up within 99.8% of the time. I mean, this is after the bond market just fell the worst it's ever seen. This is nuts to me, but be that as it may. And the interesting thing is, too, they say, let me just tell you what they're talking about here. Right here. What happened? Hold a second. Introduce an additional regime into our data weighting methodology this year with the aim of capturing the current environment of central bank rate hiking, weaker stock bond correlation, quantitative tightening, inflation, and potentially fatter left tails. Left is just a downside. So when I did that standard, bell curve, only people care, that's the right, they only care about the left, the downside risk, the value at risk. All right, so what's a tail? And so a tail is a tapering of the far ends of a distribution curve representing the least likely outcomes. In a left-right tail occurrence, an asset or portfolio moves more than 2 standard deviations is what they're calling a tail. I was like, I never heard that. So you're going to say the fat tail is 2 standard deviations? I never heard that. Anyway, so you get where I'm going. So let's go back now to Right Capital. So basically, they're using I'm not even sure what the total volatility is, but we'll just say their standard deviation was 12% for bonds, 4% for long or shorter term bonds. We'll split the difference and say that's 8 plus was 16% for stocks. So what we do here is we say bonds are 40%, so 0.4 times 0.8. Stocks are 60% by, I think we had 16 for stocks. All right, so what we do to get our standard deviation is we add these, we just do this basic math, and we listen to the dog bark. Finnegan, 0.4 times 0.08 is 0.032, 0.032, and then we go 0.6 times 0.16, that's 0.096. Add these to get Pablo, 0.032. So we have a standard deviation of 12.8%. Standard, according to JP Morgan, they'll have a standard deviation of 12.8. Hold on a second. In their capital models, they'll have an average rate of return 7.4, a standard deviation of 12.8. Now, if we look at my stuff, for basically a 60-40 portfolio, if you look at my stuff, I'm giving you 5.4 with 11.5 as our standard deviation on a 70-30. If we make that 60-40, let's go to 60-40, that'd be moderate. It's going to be 5.3 with a 10.2. All right, so less standard deviation on my end, much less rates of return. All right, so let's keep going. So I don't think Devin was talking about standard deviations of volatility. I think you need to do that. All right, so let's go now. So now we're going to have, let's go to retirement. I want to see what these guys are looking like. They're going to have them taking at 62 versus 70. Let's go to cash flows here. I just want to make sure we're getting about $7,000 net a month, and that's a little bit more than $7,000 a month. So we want to make sure, that's about 7. We want to change that around a little bit to say goals 7,000 net a month. And I'm not quite sure it's going to work, but we'll get there. We'll get there, my friends. All right, so we'll go to retirement. Hold on a second. All right, let's go have these guys take Social Security. Let's go to have these. Let me just go, right here. Retirement analysis. Okay, good. And we'll have these guys take Social Security at 62 first. And we'll say 62. Oops, Social Security at 62. There. Right there, early as possible. All right. Boink. So let's compare the two. Everything else should be the same. We have them both down at 90. All right. Okay, let's just make sure. Everything should be the same. Let's double check cash flows. All right. And 84,000. That's 7,000 a month. Yeah, there you go. All right, so not paying much in taxes here at 62. Got no income coming in. That's the current plan, taking at 70. So they're living off their portfolio. Initially, they're going to be living off their taxable portfolio, which has a pretty significant cost basis. So a lot of that's tax-free to them. So if you actually look at the 1040, we'll show you what I'm talking about. Go to details here. You can see, we're going to see capital gains are right. Actually, just look right here. Right there, capital gain $33,000. But because they're in a 12% tax bracket, it's completely tax-free. So in this case, they're living off their portfolio until Social Security kicks in. All right, and that is on the current model. Yeah. So they have to pull from their portfolio 80. That's 85 times. What's that? Until they're right here, Social Security, until they're about 9 years or so. Yeah, they have to basically drain their portfolio by the time they hit 2030. So let's see what their portfolio looks like at that point. 2030, it's down to 814. So they're living off their taxable, living off taxable, living off taxable. This account's still growing. Oh, they're not really draining their portfolio. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. This is a linear right here. This is where Devin was making the comparison using a linear rate of return, which I don't like because you can't use a linear rate of return. But anyway, be doesn't matter. Well, you will use the same to do an apples to apples comparison. But anyway, 84, that looks good. And by the time they're 70, now Social Security's kicking in at 70,000 a year. She'll have the spousal benefit as well. So she was getting $1,200 a month as her PIA, but because she has a spousal benefit, she'll get a little bit of a bump up right there. Yeah, that doesn't seem like that much. Should she get? Let's just double check. Let me make sure I got that data in there right. Income, she had $1,200 a month. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So she'll get, and his was 3,000. Yeah, $1,500 a month. Huh. That seems like lower than I'd anticipated. Why is that? So let's go to net worth. Let's go to retirement. Hold on a second. She took hers at 70. That doesn't make any sense for her to do that. Wow. Okay. Yeah, she should not take hers at 70 no matter what. All right. Let's keep going. So that I don't like that for Doris to take at 70. So let's not do that. But anyway, but I will come back to this. All right, that's at 70. Now we got at 62. Check this out. At 62, and there's Doris' spousal benefit. Okay, yeah, she's getting more of a spousal benefit because she didn't wait till she's 70 to take hers. Doris should not wait till she's 70. Don't do that. All right, so let's just compare now. What we're going to do is just compare accounts. Again, a linear 5.4% rate of return here. So if they took at 62, they would have $200,000 when Doris dies. If they took at 70, they would have $437,000 when Doris died. I mean, and the reason for that is just simple because I'm only giving a 5.4% rate of return, where Devin was given a 7.4%. Yeah, so there you go. Let's just make sure these are right. Proposed plan is taken at 62, right? Let's just double check. Retirement analysis. Proposed plan is taken at 62 right there. Current plan is taken at 70. So under my thing, the current plan taken at 70, in terms of linear rates of return, they would leave. Here's proposed plan 400,000, and here's linear. Here's taken at 70. They would leave $250,000, $230,000 more downstream. Now let's look from a tax perspective. We go to cash flow summaries. How much tax they pay? Current plan they pay $260. That's with taken at 70. Proposed plan they'll pay $327. Yeah. So in this case, with the lower rates of return, if you expect lower rates of return, you take it later. There's just no other way around it on your portfolio. I just got to throw a thing in here real quick. I want to have Doris taken at hers at 67. There's no reason she should take hers at 70. It doesn't make any sense at all. So I'll have hers take it at 67. Kevin will take it at 70. Boink. And Doris will take it at her full retirement age. Boink and boink. And that should probably give us the best adjustment, I would think. Let's just double check that. Let's see. So proposed plan, there's Doris right there kicking in her Social Security at 67. Yeah, and there's about her. She'll get a bigger bump from a spousal benefit because she has $4,000 extra. There's no reason for the lower earner, if you're making less than half of what your spouse is, to take it at 70. It doesn't make any sense in the least. Anyway, so there you go. So Doris will have a bigger amount simply because she took hers earlier at 67. And then she'll still get a spousal benefit. Kevin takes it at 70. All right. So now we go to accounts, and that's a proposed plan. And now they'll leave $612,000. Whereas if they took it both at 70, they'd leave $202. If they took it both at 62, if they took it over 70, they'll leave $437. If they took it at 62, they'll leave $202. Now let's just look from a tax perspective. I just want to double check. Boink. And current plan, proposed plan, 259. So the best plan in this case would be for them to take it. Absolutely, at 67. Doris at 67. What's his name? Kevin at 70, without question. Let's just run one other thing here. It's all contingent expectations performance. Let's have Kevin taking his at 67 as well. We'll go to retirement and just get a double check there, and we'll say he's going to take his at 67 as well. That still might not be the worst scenario. Let's double check. Kaboom, kablank, kapink, kerplink, kerplank, kerplunk. Anyone know where that's from? Kerpink, kerplink, kerplank, kerplunk. If you do, you are the man. All right, so this is proposed. How much taxes they'll end up paying? 311. Yep, so a little bit more than the other way, and their accounts on a linear rate. They'll leave. Yeah, so the best case would be Kevin taking at 70, Doris taking at 67. Taking at 62 is not. Taking at 70 both is not. Taking 67 is the second best. Taking 67 for Doris and 70 for Kevin is absolutely the best, because we're only given a 5.4% rate of return with an 11.5% standard deviation. Devin was given a 7.4% rate of return, and we're not even using the Monte Carlos for the linear rate of return. We don't care. We're just saying if we're getting 5.4% linear versus 7.4% linear, inherently the bigger return you expect, the earlier on your portfolio, the earlier you should take Social Security. It's just that simple. It's just what it comes down to. Love your thoughts. We'll see you.